Everyday life was already a struggle for Max and Edith Marsh. 13 months ago, Max fell and broke his back. The accident left him with limited movement from his neck down. On Friday night, thieves broke into his garage and stole the family car, along with his custom-made wheelchair.
I felt devastated, to tell you the truth, because after what I've been through with the spinal injury, I quite honestly didn't think I deserved to have to go through this.
Police found the car in bushland near Kurri Kurri, but there was no sign of the wheelchair.
Without it, I've lost independence and I've lost mobility.
The chair had been designed to fit Max's body and alleviate pressure points. Without it, he can only move short distances with the aid of a walker.
Show some compassion and realise just how much the chair is needed here, and hopefully drop it somewhere or bring it back.
Madeline Bond, NBN News.
These 1080 baits are destined to be dropped from a helicopter onto the ranges around Lostock Dam near Gresford. Just last week, Mount Rivers dairy farmer Rodney Richardson shot a feral dog nearby.
The one I shot is only 200 metres from the house, so you always got to keep an eye out for them.
He says there's been a huge improvement since they joined the baiting program a few years ago.
Well, since we started baiting, I've only probably seen 3 or 4 a year, but before that it was, you might have seen a dozen a year sort of thing.
This week, the Livestock Health and Pest Authority has been putting out baits in outlying areas around Scone, Muswellbrook and Singleton. It's also surveying local farmers.
We need to encourage landholders to help themselves, and that is by reporting these attacks or reporting these sightings.
As more domestic species breed with dingoes, the dogs are becoming more vicious, even stalking humans.
Gone are the days where the animals we trap would be 15, 20 kilos. We're now getting reports of 30, 40 kilo dogs.
Baiting can be controversial, but with stock losses in excess of $11 million annually in New South Wales, authorities say they have to act. Penny Evans, NBN News.
They're our hope for a healthier future, the region's leading professionals gathering to hear the interim findings of a far-reaching report. The National Health and Hospitals Reform Commission has highlighted more than 100 points for change.
The big areas to target are really access to the healthcare system.
The ageing population is a key concern, and not just in terms of patients.
The greying of Australia, the greying of our workforce and the fact that our health costs continue to increase means we do need to change the way we do healthcare.
A politician and a paediatrician, Dr Andrew McDonald sees a system in pain.
The hospital system, and I've worked in the hospital system for 30 years, has never been under greater challenge.
Reform may seem overwhelming. The report talks of ironing out efficiencies, better integrating services and focusing more on prevention. But health experts say it's a start.
I'm sure that some parts of it are achievable, but in a tough budget climate, it's daunting.
The final report will be issued in coming months.
Apart from honouring Ziggy, we want to let everybody know exactly what Ziggy has done for Australia.
After 3 months on their own, it's time to crunch the numbers. But these families are hardly hiding from the scales.
Because now I can pick up a bag of potatoes and think that's what I was carrying.
Not only did they record great results while being mentored for 3 months, the group has managed to keep the weight off and the lifestyle changes seem to have stuck.
I probably struggled to run 500 metres when I started the course. I can comfortably run 20 kilometres once or twice a week now, and I'm training for a half marathon.
For lunch, it used to be pretty standard. I'd make 3 sandwiches. Well, now I make 2. I'm happy with 2.
The program has demonstrated dads can become good role models and improve their own health too.
Really positively, we've been able to show that you can engage men when you tailor and target a program that is just for them.
Researchers are planning to apply for funding to expand the Healthy Dads, Healthy Kids program community-wide. Penny Evans, NBN News.
Bundles of cash, weapons and ammunition, stolen jewellery, even designer watches, all seized during Operation Galvin. Police say they've been monitoring 2 major drug syndicates in Lake Macquarie and Sydney for the past 4 months. Yesterday, officers moved in, simultaneously targeting 6 homes in Sydney, Swansea and Caves Beach, allegedly discovering $80,000 worth of high-grade heroin, cocaine, amphetamines, ice and GHB, as well as $40,000 in cash.
This operation has been highly successful, very well run, and has certainly taken out 2 major drug syndicates operating within this command.
And this is just a small portion of the stolen property, cash, drugs and firearms that police recovered during the operation. Another 5 handguns, 5 motorbikes, several computers and even a crossbow are locked away in police evidence rooms. 8 people fronted the Belmont and Central local courts today, accused of a range of offences, including the supply of prohibited drugs, dealing with the proceeds of crime and participating in criminal groups. Another 3 were charged over the raids today, and police are hunting for 5 people from the Windale area.
Well, I think this will have a substantial effect in reducing the supply of prohibited drugs within this command, and also have a major impact in general criminal activity within the command.
Operation Galvin is the 3rd major drug bust Lake Macquarie officers have conducted in the past 12 months. Madeline Bond, NBN News.
Needing at least a draw to continue their Asian Champions League campaign, the Jets suffered a setback when Lubo Milicevic limped off inside 10 minutes. His replacement, Angelo Costanzo, would play a key role in Newcastle's impressive defensive line. Keeper Ben Kennedy had a busy night, further cementing his place as the Jets' number 1. Needing a win to advance to the knockout stage, Ulsan was creating the best chances. But a touch of Italian flair combined with some homegrown talent put the Jets in front. Ulsan continued to pepper the Jets' goal, but Kennedy was taking no prisoners. The home side continued to press in the second half as the Jets' goal was living a charmed life, much to the frustration of the Koreans. Kennedy was growing in stature by the minute. As Ulsan tired, Newcastle found plenty of space on the counter-attack, but time after time, golden opportunities went begging. In the end, the only negative was the 4 yellow cards handed out to Jets players. The club is now waiting to hear if Ben Kantarovski and Adam Deputso will be suspended for the next game. Mitchell Hughes, NBN News. It's known as New York fashion, but there's nothing flashy about this filly. Bred and raised by Christy and Alan Myers, the horse is trained by local legend, Christy's dad Barry Mattison, at his property at Sawyers Gully. 6 wins and 3 places from 11 starts this season sees the 3-year-old marked as an early favourite for the Newcastle Oaks, even after drawing a wide barrier.
She's got the speed. The only thing is she hasn't been over the 25-60, but most of them other fillies we're racing this week haven't neither, so we'll just see how we go.
Completing the family affair, Barry's grandson Adam is down to drive New York fashion on Saturday, but floodwaters could force a reshuffle.
He's one of the leading drivers here in the Newcastle area. Well, he's in Queensland at present. We don't know whether he'll get home for the weekend to drive her or not.
Here in the Hunter, rain isn't expected to force the cancellation of the meeting. The Broadmeadow facility is a highly rated wet weather surface, and this weekend a legendary racecaller will look to continue his impressive record at the track.
Johnny Tapp's coming up. He's got a terrific record here. He had a double last Saturday night. He's got 3 runners engaged, and I think he can pick up another winner or 2.
Mitchell Hughes, NBN News.
It was enough to even ground the seagulls. Winds of up to 94 kilometres an hour lashed the coast, turning roads alongside one Newcastle beach into a sand dune. Only the very keen ventured anywhere near the surf as beaches were closed. Dangerous conditions outside the heads also meant restricted access for vessels in the harbour. But this group of Maitland TAFE students won't be caught out should the floods hit, getting in early to learn the basics of an SES rescue.
It's basically designed to give people a snapshot of the SES, and we hope that they'll actually join a unit.
And it had an immediate effect on Jackie Cowling, who was already considering a permanent role alongside the men in orange.
I had 2 sons at Kinglake in Victoria, and SES helped them a great deal. This is a little bit of a payback.
The program not only makes up the practical component of a TAFE certificate, it also acts as the equivalent of an SES induction, meaning she can progress straight to frontline training.
I think it's a great opportunity for anybody to get involved with. As I said, it's to help the community, and it's a lot of fun.
Penny Evans, NBN News.
if it can work in South Australia, I can't see why it can't work in New South Wales or actually all over Australia.
It's a book lover's paradise. More than 20,000 titles of every imaginable genre on sale for dirt cheap prices.
We have everything from fashion, the World Book Atlas, biographies, travel guides, cooking books, record books and books for children.
The books, along with a collection of CDs, have been culled from libraries across Newcastle and can be bought for as little as 20 cents and up to $4.
The money that's made goes back into book stock, so that we are actually the biggest lending library in New South Wales, so we have a big turnover of stock, and this is an opportunity for us to update our stock.
And here's an interesting little fact. If you read one of these books every day, it'd take about 60 years to get through the entire collection. The sale at the old rail sheds starts tomorrow at 9 a.m. Madeline Bond, NBN News. Energy Australia has relied on the basic principles of an electricity network for 100 years. Now it says it's time for an update. Over the next 10 years, the utility will digitise its network to create what's called a smart grid.
The smart grid is a combination of modern communications technology and the traditional power grid. It enables the delivery of not just power, but power together with information.
We're being told the new network will be more reliable, more interactive and use more renewable energy. It won't only allow customers to draw electricity from the grid, but also feed power back into it.
We can connect distributed power sources, in a sense decarbonise the grid.
Thousands of sensors and household meters will also be able to tell customers which of their electrical appliances is using the most energy. The utility has entered into a $5 million partnership with the University of Newcastle, where postgraduate engineering students will conduct research and development.
We clearly have international research strengths already in the areas of control and signal processing and telecommunications and also power, and I think it's just a really natural fit.
The partnership could even eventually change the way engineering is taught at the university.
We genuinely hope that down the track a lot of these innovations can find their way into our undergraduate teaching programs. I mean, it's a really exciting time to be considering being a student in electrical engineering.
Madeline Bond, NBN News.
It's got all the makings of a classic drama, small family companies taking on a corporate giant over the name of a little-known parish in a well-known winemaking region. When Michael Hope bought what was Rothbury Estate in 2006, he was happy to let the label go. However, Foster's decision to also trademark the locality of Rothbury to prevent a few dozen local vignerons putting it on their bottles has left a bad taste on a few palates.
I'm really disappointed. I think it's a case of someone in a suit sitting in an office gone mad.
They argue these days educated consumers want to know more about where the grapes come from than just the Hunter Valley.
And I don't think it's right that you should be able to trademark the name of a geographical area, as has happened. So it's caused a bit of a ruckus, and I think we're all sitting back scratching our heads saying, well, what are we at now to call this sub-region if it's not Rothbury, which is what it's known as?
There's now a panic to prevent other place names from becoming private property, with the Hunter Valley Wine Industry Association moving to trademark the grape-growing areas of Belford and Mount View on behalf of members. If successful, places like Pecolbin and Lovedale could be next, with the potential for the whole valley to be divvied up.
Well, I guess it's a wake-up call that all regions, not just in the Hunter Valley, New South Wales, but right through Australia, need to make sure that they are proactive in protecting their regional names and identities.
A spokesman for Foster's said Rothbury is a brand very dear to the company, and they've taken this action to protect the value of the label. Penny Evans, NBN News.
As if timing his personal return to form on cue for Origin, Jonathan Thurston and his Cowboys are playing the sort of football that makes any coach nervous.
It's just that they're bloody hard to defend against. You know, they're so good at what they do.
And that's meant extra homework for the Knights.
Like, I've got this little book that I carry with me. It's like I'm going to school, and I write down all the key points about what I need to do, and it's really helped me out.
Zeb Taylor's been filling up both his text and scrapbook of late. 2 tries at the weekend and a rich vein of form could yet see him add Kiwi selection at the season's end.
Probably one of the top goals at the moment, just to get into that quad series.
The decision to announce the Blues Origin team during the half-time break in Newcastle's match against the Cowboys on Monday night has some questioning the timing, but it doesn't overly bother the coach.
The reason they get to that level is they're pretty good at shutting that stuff out anyway. They know how to discipline their mind and control themselves at game time.
Even so, Smith won't be reading out the state team during his half-time speech. Jim Callanan, NBN News. Arriving back from Korea, Newcastle players headed straight into a well-earned 10-day break. Enough time for Italian star Fabio Vigneroli to make a round trip to his homeland. And the coach would like to think when he returns, it will be as the club's A-League marquee player.
Very, very, very important for us to work out because, as I said, we need to ensure that we do our own due diligence on getting the next marquee player in if it's not Fabio.
Fighting off big spending Asian clubs shapes as the Jets' biggest threat, but it's not the only waiting game. Ben Kennedy is still to get endorsed as the club's #1 goalkeeper, despite his best outing yet against Ulsan.
Yeah, no, I feel the last 4 games I've played pretty well and done enough to be #1 keeper, so I just got to keep improving and keep performing just to stay #1.
He's got the backing of fellow local product Jason Hoffman, who returned with that goal, a 1-match suspension and a welcome heads-up from the national under-20s coach.
Hopefully, he'll call us in for the next camp, which pretty confident he should do, and go to the World Cup and hopefully do well there.
But before all that, it's the next stage of the Asian Champions League, and it's now elimination style.
We're under no illusions of how hard the next game's going to be, going back to Korea.
When you hear your doorbell ring this weekend, the Salvation Army is asking you to be generous. This year, the charity has set an ambitious target of raising $2 million in the Hunter.
We are finding more and more people coming to us for help. We're finding that whilst Newcastle itself is a little bit insulated from the financial crisis, we are still seeing the signs that people are hurting.
Money raised will be divvied up between a range of Hunter-based services.
Drug and alcohol rehabilitation through to family welfare, food parcels and food vouchers and so forth, through to youth training programs to help disadvantaged youth.
Sadly, scams have occurred in the past, and the Salvos say before handing over any money, make sure the person collecting has a 2009 ID card, Red Shield's appeal collection bag and clearly marked receipt book. If you miss the volunteers this weekend, money can be donated by logging on to salvos.org.au or calling 13 72 58. Madeline Bond, NBN News.
And they're still waiting for public health inspectors to come and check out the whole boat, and they've been left in the dark.
They're not saying anything. They're not saying nothing. No one knows what's going on.
It was fair weather football on a wet and heavy ground with the Wanderers slicing through the middle before going wide to find first points in less than 4 minutes. Armed with the return of two country representatives, the students didn't take long to strike back. The pace of Wanderer, Paul Matowski, saw him skip around Uni again to land himself a double. But it was University who went to the break holding a 21-13 point lead. That all changed in the second as the visitors ran in 2 tries, the second to Luke Gibson to nudge ahead 25-24. From there, things turned real sour for the home side. Uni soon down by more than just a point, Tim Hickey getting his marching orders after the ugly exchange, which only threatened to get even worse on the sideline. Warren Randall landing the real blow as Wanderers sealed a 32-24 win.
These mothers thought their children could play safely in the park across the road from their Cessnock East home, But yesterday, Debbie Smith's 8-year-old nephew and another local girl were allegedly enticed into a silver ute by a man. The man exposed himself to the young girl. Police are now trying to track him down.
You hear it all the time, especially on TV and that, about little kids getting taken away or abducted and that. But you don't really think about it until it actually happens to one of your family members.
They say the empty park is just part of the problem in the area nicknamed Sin City.
Because it's got to the stage where, we won't let the kids go out and play with their friends and, do normal kid things because of things that are happening here.
They want support to make the suburb more family-friendly.
It's just a matter of getting everybody together and, trying to work something out for the area and just to make it, safe for the kids.
Police say the incident is a timely reminder for parents to reinforce the stranger danger message. They've released a description of the man wanted over yesterday's incident. Penny Evans, NBN News. Two abreast, it was hardly racing pace, but that wasn't the idea behind today's event. Michelle Mason organised the Newcastle leg to honour her husband Dominic, who died in a cycling accident at Blacksmiths in late 2007. While it wasn't entirely silent, the pack took the chance to remember friends lost on local roads.
But there was certainly a feeling of togetherness, I guess, and a feeling of camaraderie that we weren't in complete silence, but we were certainly a bit sombre.
Newcastle was one of 7 Australian rides and more than 260 worldwide, aiming to make the roads a safer place.
Getting that awareness out there is certainly a positive thing that we as a cycling community can do.
Penny Evans, NBN News.
They say from little things, big things grow, and that's the thinking behind the great Hunter Cycle Classic.
We see that the longer term potential of this event, we'll be attracting 1,500, 2,000 competitors or participants for this event over coming years.
After recreational riders headed out on the looping course around central Pecolbin, elite riders hit the road in the 100-kilometre feature. The 5 laps couldn't have been around better scenery. Although not quite the Tour de France, there's little doubting the potential of a race set amongst such a backdrop.
When you're not in the box, yeah, you can definitely look at the scenery. Other from that, head down and watch those potholes.
Locals know all about those, but Richard Lang did it better than most today, leading out a breakaway on the final lap, which included Newcastle's Glenn Stogino and Sam Lazel, but the Sydney-sider held them both off to claim the first ever title.
Full credit to him. He worked all day in the bunch and all day up the road, and he still managed to beat us both in the sprint.
The Minmi Public Schools P&C says although Woodford Street, which fronts the school, is getting busier all the time, it doesn't meet the RTA's criteria for flashing lights.
People just didn't seem to notice at all the 40 zone. They were just flying straight through, and we actually had an incident with one of our crossing men that nearly got hit.
The P&C, led by local resident Clarice Hamling, decided to take the matter into its own hands, installing these lights for a fraction of what the RTA's version costs. The $2,000 bill was footed by the P&C, which was required to have the lights installed on private property. Parents say since the lights were turned on, motorists are no longer breaking the 40 km/h speed limit. What's more, other schools in the region, including ones at Wangi and New Lambton, are now looking at installing the lights, which have been pre-approved by Newcastle and Maitland councils.
It's a shame that the P&Cs have to use their own funds. That funds could be used for other resources within the schools, but if they have the chance to actually use their funds, by all means.
Lauren Bladwell, NBN News.
Dr Lee Sutton of the Prince of Wales Hospital in Sydney told the court she had diagnosed the child as being autistic and described the 5-year-old as extremely active during a visit in March 2005. Dr Sutton said the well-nourished but short girl didn't sit still, running around the room, placing objects into her mouth and displaying signs of major intellectual delay. Dr Sutton said, "I could see she was a very difficult child to manage." She later stated that the girl didn't engage with her socially. The girl was prescribed a drug commonly used for people with attention deficit disorder. Dr Claire Cunningham from the Sydney Children's Hospital also gave evidence in East Maitland Court, saying she assessed the girl, who had significant overall delays and didn't crawl or walk until later than an average toddler. The court heard that in 2003, when the girl was almost 2.5, x-rays were carried out on her bones, with the results resembling those seen on a child aged only 6 months. Clinical psychologist Dr Janina Schindler said that when the girl was just 23 months, she showed signs of malnutrition and that her stomach was very large. Dr Schindler also described the mother as irritable and withdrawn during a visit in April 2002, saying she was very reluctant to talk about any aspect of her problems and that her presentation was quite concerning. The trial continues. Colleen West, NBN News.
Talking him up around the ruck and making sure we're watching where he's going, because where the ball is, Gidley's somewhere about. So it's he's a real key to their go forward.
When Jason Hoffman was booked last week against Ulsan in Korea, everyone, including the man himself, thought it was his second of the campaign, which means an automatic suspension. But in a stroke of luck players only dream of, it's turned out his first yellow card in the match against Nagoya last month was actually awarded to a teammate. The last part at least was right, but NBN News has discovered, after obtaining the official AFC match report, it was in fact Jets captain Matt Thompson who went into the referee's black book. Hoffman had fouled, but the actual booking came from the ensuing melee, sparked when Thompson kicked the ball into an opposing player. It now means all of the fit Newcastle players are free for selection for their next ACL game against Pohang. Newcastle University rugby union front rower Tim Hickey will be hard-pressed to find the same luck. He's been cited to front the NHRU judiciary on Wednesday night after this against the Wanderers at the weekend. Hickey was sent off after the ugly exchange and is likely to face a further sanction. Jim Callanan, NBN News.
Yeah, I felt pretty happy. I mean, that's what it's all about. I love riding bulls, and they're the kind of bulls I like riding, and ones that no one else can ride, so it's pretty good.
Oh, I'd just take my hat off, to him. He's a fine young man, Pete, and he's going to go a long way. He's really got his head screwed on, and good bloke to go with it.
If you were holidaying at this tourist park in Ballina right now, you'd have every reason to feel cheated by Mother Nature. Water, and plenty of it, is inundating the park with each high tide, but the locals, used to living by the water, are taking it all in their stride. Anyone in Ballina RSL last night had a window seat for the water show. Catching a bus from the town's transit centre was impossible. With several roads closed, a bike was the preferred mode of transport for some. While it was a trying night for the crew of this yacht, the bad news is there could be a repeat performance over the next 2 nights. Meanwhile, the flood recovery is well underway in Lismore, overseen by former Police Commissioner Ken Moroney. He's the government-appointed Mr Fix-It, whose job is to restore order and confidence right across flooded northern New South Wales.
And this isn't just a simple one-off flying visit and then working from a desk and a telephone in Sydney. I believe that for me to gain the appreciation that I need to gain and to work with the mayors and provide assistance to them, it requires that on-the-ground approach.
Blake Doyle, NBN News.
Police say Danica Nixon was last seen walking away from crowds at an all-night rave party in a disoriented state on Easter Sunday in April 2006. More than 200 people were on the rural property at the Channon. Her family reported her missing 2 days later. Police searched the property with specialist divers called up from Sydney, but the body of the 25-year-old surfaced in a swimming hole on Thursday the 20th of April. The death was not considered suspicious at the time, and local police helped to compile a report for the coroner that will form part of this week's inquiry. The inquest before Deputy State Coroner Malcolm McPherson should run for 5 days. It's expected Ms Nixon's family and friends will attend. 21 witnesses are slated to be called to give evidence to help the Deputy State Coroner determine the time and cause of Danica's death. Penny Evans, NBN News.
Regular churchgoers to Newcastle's inner city Catholic parishes have long enjoyed the talents of Catherine Marnie. Born blind, she attended school with other vision-impaired children, learning to feel the music before going on to live for it.
We always sang. We sang when we washed the dishes, we sang when we played, and we always sang in church. And I'm really grateful to the Dominican sisters, some of whom may be watching tonight. I'm really grateful to them for nurturing that ability and that love within me.
And it's the 9:30 Christmas morning mass at Newcastle's Sacred Heart Cathedral that Catherine loves the most. Sharing a passion with Director of Music, Greg Smith.
It's my favourite time of playing because you get to pull out all the stops on the organ. And
the two have developed their own way to communicate mid-song. Some of the pieces are written by Greg himself and brought to life by Catherine.
Yes, it's always good to have like an angel on call.
Humble, this vocalist was reluctant to share her talent, but we're glad she did. Silent Night is Catherine's favourite because others sing along with her, and with gusto.
I love that it makes a difference to the people. I mean, primarily, it's not about me, it's about God and faith, and it's about enhancing, hopefully, the prayer experience of those who gather to worship.